It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome to Half Speed Friday. Half Speed Friday. For all the podcasters, Gary McNamara, Eric Harley, and wow, what a Thursday it was. Gary, how are you?
Good. Oh, man, I can't find what I was... I didn't save it.
Yeah, what?
Oh, man, it was just... It was one of the conspiracy theories for the eclipse.
Oh, yeah. Was it mine? I started one yesterday.
No,
NASA?
It wasn't yours.
Okay, because we started the mission to the moon. We didn't actually go to the moon. We just, it was an optical illusion kind of thing, And then now it's going to be a big optical illusion. How many people can we get on the interstates all at once, right? And with this big optical illusion that's going to happen on Monday. It's not real. The sun's not real. Forget the moon. We never went to the sun. The sun is flat. I'll just throw them all out there.
That was all over the place yesterday. Well, if the Earth is flat, is the moon flat?
Yeah.
And why would the Earth be the only flat planet?
Right. I mean, wouldn't it make sense that many of them would be flat? I mean, come on. Yeah. It's. I'm waiting for Woody Harrelson in an RV to pull up. It would be perfect. It would actually be perfect. And then, what was it? They call it with storms the cone of uncertainty, and in this it's the path of totality.
The path of totality.
The zone of totality.
Welcome to Red Eye Radio, the path of total doom.
Yeah, we are.
All right, I found it.
Yeah, okay. What do you got?
It was in the National Review blog. Here we go. We're not supposed to talk about this, but the eclipse is actually a repair that's being made to the dome over the Earth. What they're calling the path of the eclipse is actually a seam where two parts of the dome connect.
Yeah.
They have to reseal it because it's come loose over time.
Right.
The alien overlords are doing this for our protection, so there is nothing to worry about.
There is a giant tube of Gorilla Glue that they're going to send up to fix it, to glue it all together.
The first response, that seems reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I buy it. I buy it. And why not?
And the best one, we're all in the Truman Show.
Yeah. No, no, that's the greatest. That's the greatest right there. All of a sudden, a light falls out of the sky onto the ground. One of those big spotlight things. Yeah, they had a story where the zone of totality may be just slightly different. Then, of course, that's going to cost millions of dollars. People made plans. So I don't know. It seems like a lot for 4 minutes, and 4 minutes on the top end.
Well,
so
I was going to bring my vehicle in to get inspected. I'm doing it Tuesday.
Don't do anything Monday, right?
I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can't do it Monday.
No.
Because normally I bring the vehicle in. I wake up a little bit early and I'll take the vehicle in between 10 and 11.
Right.
Oh, my God, I can't take it in.
Well, no.
Between 10 and 11 and then, okay, Gary, it's 12:30, 12:45. Your vehicle is done.
Well, there's.
I never get home.
There was a lady that they focused on in one story that they talked about back in 2017. She had made plans to go what would have been about 6 or 7 hours away from her home to see the eclipse back then. And so they got on the highway, and then it took them 6 or 7 hours to go what would have normally been a 2-hour drive. I mean, it was just jam-packed. And if you see that look, they're already predicting it's going to happen. Inevitably, you're going to see it. There are going to be people drawn to the zone of totality from outside that zone, and they can't all fit. But I-35 in our neck of the woods is going to be it. I mean, you look from, Waco is right in the center.
I know.
Of the zone of totality. My sister-in-law lives down in that area, but she lives out in the country. And she said it's crazy. She said it's insane that every hotel and everything else is booked up solid. I didn't bother to call all the hotels. They've had some stories on the news. She said this goes back, by the way, 3 or 4 months.
Well, I saw it yesterday when I was just looking. I don't know. I don't even know where I saw it. Maybe it was one of the TV stations in Western New York that I pay attention to. But over the weekend, like I-90, I forgot which direction it is. Might be both directions.
Yeah.
You know, from Erie to Buffalo, there's parts of it that are going to be closed because of repair of a bridge.
Oh,
because of,
wow.
and I'm like, well, this isn't the weekend to do it because that heads right to Niagara Falls, and they're expecting 1 million people.
Yeah.
It's
wow.
like, what are you doing?
Yeah, because that area, Buffalo's like right in the center of the zone of totality, too.
Yeah, and they say there's just one the overpass where some trucks have hit, and they need to look at the damage on the bridge.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, well.
You better work quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like Friday through Saturday, but there, you know as well as I do, there's going to be people traveling all over the place.
No, we were looking at taking our RV out. We don't, at first we're going to just go to some, we're not going to go on long road trips, especially on a weekend if we don't have a week off. And calling around to some of the RV parks, no, they're booked. And they're booked starting today. Maybe even sooner, but I mean, I was looking at basically today and tomorrow. And many of the RV parks are like, no. So, yeah, that's going to be a thing. And you're going to have you'll just have people, even if the people aren't staying in that area, so you've got people that live just outside or maybe an hour outside the zone of totality. Well, they're going to make the hour drive, and they're just going to park wherever. They probably haven't made any plans. They're not getting a hotel or anything. That's going to cause chaos. If that comes to fruition, it'll be madness. I don't know what truck drivers are going to do. I do not know what truck drivers are going to do. Because you really can't measure it until it happens. You don't know how bad it's going to be. It could be a lot worse than they expect.
Or it couldn't be bad at all.
Could be nothing. So you don't know how to plan. And in logistics, you have to plan. So I don't know what they do.
Doing talk radio during Y2K was really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember.
Nothing happened.
Well, all I had, we didn't have smartphones. I had a cell phone, flip phone. And we had one desktop computer at the house. But they were freaking out that all the ATMs would go down, the banking systems would go down, and I mean everything was going to, the sun was going to crash into the moon. Someone was going to start a business called Twitter and Facebook. I mean, things were supposed to happen that never. Oh, wait a minute, a couple of those things happened, but I didn't care enough. I really don't know which it is. I didn't care enough. Whatever happens. Or I just didn't buy it. It just didn't feel to me. Wow. I thought to myself, look, there could be computer issues, and I could see the reasoning behind it. It was like, okay, because of the date and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right. And then we went out actually on New Year's Eve with another couple. And we went to an event, and it was, I don't know, I mean, I guess about 2 a.m. No, we stayed at a hotel, that's right. So we were at this hotel where the event was. And it was probably around 2 or 3 a.m. when I realized, oh, yeah, okay, nothing happened.
I was in Oregon at the time, and I remember working at our great affiliate in the lead-up to Y2K, KXL in Portland. And I was talking to a couple of people that, were building their bunkers.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And I never heard from them after. Because that would have been, how much did you spend in that bunker?
Yeah. Look.
Now, I mean, in 2024, who knows? You may need it.
Well, no, I mean, I think now, because the whole prepping thing seems to have, well, at least in reality TV, but I mean, the stories around prepping have kind of, faded away.
Yeah, they have.
But I would say today more than ever, maybe because I'm older. But no, I think the conditions. You look at where we are. I mean, we were talking yesterday about the SPR. You know, and we talk about the fact that okay, you're going to more and more rely on solar and wind. The enemy knows this. They know how easy it would be. The hailstorm in Texas and the solar farm. You know, my gosh, they don't even have to bomb it. They could just throw some rocks.
Well,
I mean, this is it's the grid is sensitive enough. So you look at all these things and say, all right, what could be the possibility? You know, we're not the conspiracy theory show, but you know, you're an old, you're an Eagle Scout. I'm a Boy Scout who got a guitar too soon. And
did you make it past tenderfoot? Tenderfoot?
No, I'm at a Boy Scout. Yeah, but yeah, it's like you're gonna have to put. There is no guitar badge. Go take that home. But it's being prepared is always a good thing. So I think right now we're especially under this administration, we're more vulnerable than ever before. Now, thanks to the men and women who serve, I am still confident that we could withstand an enemy. It's just we don't know what to trust from this administration when it comes to communications.
Well, I mean, we saw it again yesterday, and it was about 8-9 days ago where we went after Biden, and very passionately. I still get emails on it saying you guys a couple of weeks ago on it. Not going to do it tonight, just because I just don't want to. I feel like if I do it tonight, it's one of those kind of you go past that point. Yeah, you keep screaming at it. But what he did again yesterday was betray our hostages again.
Yeah.
Never been done,
right?
Whatsoever. From me covering politics as long as I've covered it, I've never seen anything like this. The Wall Street Journal covered it pretty good when they talked about, excuse me, your military killed civilians in Afghanistan.
And you never answered for it.
No, you never answered for it. And the misinformation that you peddled on that until the truth finally came out.
Right. The media had to bring it up.
Right. This is something where Israel came out and immediately, you're going to have collateral damage in war. It's going
quite
to happen.
Unfortunate.
And the president is taking advantage of it. And really, for Blinken to even attempt to compare Hamas to a democracy, a parliamentary democracy over there, to dare to do that, a modern Western democracy, and compare that to Hamas, it shows you the pro-terrorist, the absolute pro-terrorist. See, it's tough for me not to get angry at it, because you can't believe that you have a pro-terrorist administration that is betraying not only our ally. Now, we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it still gets us angry because we said in the very beginning, no, there'll be a point where they'll betray Israel.
Oh, yeah.
And not only did they betray Israel, but they betrayed and abandoned our hostages over there.
Right.
And it's just, it's mind-boggling to see something like this. But we'll get to that coming up here more in a little bit. I was just talking about, Ducey, though, because Ducey was asked about the SPR.
Yeah, right.
And she simply said, and I wish some reporter, instead of just taking the answer.
Ducey asked her about the SPR.
Ducey asked her about the SPR.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And she just said, well, that's the Energy Department, and you'd have to ask them. I'd turn around and say, are you people responsible for anything?
The president bragged about it.
Right. You're right. The president. That
was his move.
Right. That was his move. He bragged about it. He gave the authority to do it, not the Energy Department. And he didn't do a follow-up on it.
No.
And the thing, and I was a newsbuster saying, he goes, basically he goes after Karine Jean-Pierre. He didn't at all.
No.
And I'm just like, stop hyping reporters, even if they mostly have your side. He should have sat there in the SPR and just said, when are you people ever going to take responsibility for what your administration does?
Right.
You keep deflecting as if you have nothing to do with the Energy Department and the policies that they make, yet it is Biden that ordered this to happen,
Right.
And now you don't want to answer it because it's horrible publicity because you've been out here promoting the fact that gas prices are just so low, so low, so low.
I guess we'll give that credit to Granholm, Energy Secretary, right? Instead of Biden. He was trying to take credit for releasing the reserves and lowering oil prices, which was a blip, by the way. So he doesn't get that credit, right? I would have been relentless. We've said it before. We'd be thrown out of that room.
Yeah, we would be. We'd be thrown out.
Because you got to play the game.
Yeah.
Forget that.
Because he just went on to the next question. It's like, okay, it's acceptable. Where you just, and then she really didn't answer any of his questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah. But we'll get to that. No labels.
No backbone.
We couldn't find our hero.
We don't even know why. I mean, we're a party about nothing, and we stand for nothing, and we don't know why we couldn't find no one.
I do. God, hey, I have the answer.
I will tell you this: the No Labels Party is a perfect example because it was really driven by liberalism.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't driven by conservative thought whatsoever. But the No Labels Party is a perfect example of virtue signaling in our society.
Yeah, yeah.
Take yourself to a higher morality and do nothing.
Right, exactly.
And take no stand on anything.
Yeah, get nothing done.
It's the whole thing that you hear out there. Well, both sides are to blame, and both sides are equally to blame, and both sides are equally to blame. Well, that isn't the case. You have to go issue by issue on it.
Right.
But you got to take a stand, and they wouldn't take a damn stand on anything.
No.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold weather takes a toll on trucks. As warmer weather rolls in, it's time to assess the impact winter has had on your vehicle before you find yourself stranded roadside this spring. If you're experiencing sluggish cranking, start your spring maintenance routine by having your electrical system tested by a professional technician. Your batteries, alternator, and starter have been working overtime to keep up with cold starts and thick oil during winter. Continuing to crank a vehicle with low voltage will lead to more damage and downtime later on. Big rigs are big investments. Take care of yours now to help avoid downtime later and keep rolling through to next winter.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, No Labels yesterday said they will not move forward with their effort.
All right.
Today, quote, today No Labels is ending our effort to put forth a unity ticket in the 2024 election.
Well,
a No Labels spokesperson said in a statement, Americans remain more open to an independent presidential run and are hungrier for unifying national leadership than ever before. But No Labels has always said we would only offer our ballot line to a ticket if we could identify a candidate or candidates with credible path to winning the White House. No such candidate emerged. So the responsible course of action for us is to stand down. And I think one of the Fox News story had the spokesperson as stating that they couldn't find their hero.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. They used the word effort. Was it really an effort? Because an effort tells me you did something hard. And doing something hard, in this case, would start with taking a stand, telling people what you believe, what your party is about. So the fact of the matter is that you failed because you're a party about nothing.
Yeah. Well, and they virtue signals that was something to be proud of,
right?
Which really does. There is a section of populism in there that we'll get to coming up here.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just very briefly here. I mean, it's a Friday, so we have to entertain you. And this is Kamala Harris talking about the NCAA women's basketball tournament. Final Four starts tonight. And here she is, all right? Here we go.
Yeah.
Do you know, okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022? Think about that. And talk about progress, better late than never, but progress. And what that has done, because of course when, I had a bracket, it's not broken completely, but I won't talk about my bracket. But you know what? Just how we love March Madness, and even just now allowing the women to have brackets, and what that does to encourage people to talk more about the women's teams, to watch them. Now they're being covered, and this is the reality. People used to say, "Oh, women's sports, who's interested?" Well, if you can't see it, you won't be. But when you see it, you realize, oh.
What?
I would rather hear Hillary talk about sports. Remember when she was running, and they would ask her if she was a fan of like every team, whatever city she was in.
Right? Was it the Mets or the Yankees?
Was it the Cubs or the White Sox?
I
Was she in
think
Chicago?
no. I think it was in New York. Remember when she was running for senator? Are you a Yankees or a Mets fan? Wasn't it? I think it was.
Okay, I thought there was another time when she was in Chicago and they asked her that question too.
It could
and
be.
She said
There
she
could
was.
have
she
been
was-
that too.
And
Yeah.
I thought she said she was like either a Sox fan or a
Or Cubs.
Cubs. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I committed blasphemy. I said
Yeah.
the Sox before the Cubs.
Yeah.
My
Way to go.
apologies. I didn't mean to trigger
We
anybody.
look forward to your email. Yeah. No, it wasn't 2022.
No, the first tournament began, so there'd be brackets in 1982.
Yeah.
But that was just.
And listen, she's a liberal. She just needs to be happy that women are still allowed to play sports.
Basketball, right. Exactly, because Kamala Harris agrees that men should be playing women's sports.
And then she's preaching at everybody else. We just let them have brackets a few years ago. Well, number one, wrong. Number two, your side is promoting men playing in women's sports. So you tell me what's wrong with this equation.
Right. And
it's not your bracket that's broken. It's your logic. Man.
Well, and hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Well, the hypocrisy isn't broken.
No, it's working full 100%. It's right up there, working as well as it ever has.
You see the liberals out there, today going, "Oh, this is so great for women's basketball, so great for women's basketball." So wait a minute. Why aren't there any men playing in women's basketball? Because men can be women when men say so.
Right.
Because men now get to define women.
Right.
By the way, that was my favorite story of the week, the National Organization of Women.
Oh, my gosh.
We did that yesterday, coming out and just completely Gloria Steinem put up the white flag a couple of years ago, but yesterday, 2 days ago, was just mind-boggling when they came out with an official statement that people like Riley Gaines and the women that are upset that men are playing sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are part of the white supremacist.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say plutocracy, patriarchy.
Yeah.
And it's like, excuse me.
Wait a minute. They're making it up. We can throw plutocracy in, too.
Well, why not? I just throw everything in there.
It doesn't have to have a reason or any logic behind it. Seriously. We're the far left of America, putting the men back in women's sports. You can see.
Put the men back in women.
The MEN is highlighted.
Put the men back into women's sports.
That's right. Let's do what really matters.
So she's a complete fraud.
Yeah, of course.
Because she is just like every single Democrat on the federal level, maybe except one or two, because 99.9% of Congress voted for the equity bill, which would, and that's what they're trying to do. The Democrats are trying to codify in the law that men should be able to play women's sports.
Right.
Kamala Harris agrees with that position. How dare she? Women should be insulted that she comes out and starts promoting NCAA women's basketball,
Right.
implying that we've had a sexist nation before that wouldn't come out and watch women's basketball. And so it's good that it's happening now when she advocates men taking women's places in sports.
Yep. Too easy.
Oh, it's for God's sakes. It's just,
Children.
Oh, that was my grandmother. My grandmother used to say that all the time. For God's sakes, Gary, shut up.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Shut up.
Or Sister Lorian. Child of God, shut up. Boy, that just popped into my head. I didn't think about that for, 50 years.
Wow.
All of a sudden that popped in.
All right.
Sister Lorian.
Welcome to Therapy Friday with Gary.
Gary, shut up. She said it to me. She said it to my sister, too. My sister had it. My sister will always laugh about it.
All right.
Child of God, shut up. Well, there was a bit of a, to start out Child of God, you're like, oh, whoa.
Well,
But
that's it.
but
It's the setting, but it's
a setup, right?
It's also like, hey, with all due respect, and then of course, boom, they crush you.
Strictly.
I mean this with all due respect.
It's not personal.
Yeah,
This is just business.
you're just with all due respect, you're a moron.
I wonder if any mobster said that before they got killed, said, well, can we debate that point?
Yeah. Hey, I think we're using that wrong.
Can we debate that
Hey,
point?
with all due respect,
you're saying
you're
it's
wrong.
You're saying it's not personal, but you're blowing my brains out in 5 seconds.
It's a very complicated situation. Let me.
The mob was like the Democrats. They never had to explain anything.
Let me ask you, Mr. McNamara, you like doing simple things like, using your legs?
Hey, be careful. I might be in that. I might be in that mob streaming TV series.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are fake mobsters. They're not real. They're actors. Come on. I mean, they're in a union, but that's all there is.
All right. Enough of basketball.
Brackets. Wow. And the way she said it. We only let them have brackets a few years ago.
Right.
She doubled down on that after being so wrong. Oof.
Man, just great.
Oof. Wow. Yeah. Okay, well.
You know, I didn't hear any. I checked. I didn't hear anyone crying tears because No Labels is not going to run a Unity ticket.
No.
Did you see it anywhere?
No.
I scanned like crazy, especially on X yesterday, trying to find someone saying, this is the problem with our country. No Labels is not going to run as a third party. We need that Unity ticket.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that. It was more like the Doc Holliday response in Tombstone, well, No Labels. I forgot you were there. You may go now. Leave the gun.
Are we going to accomplish anything today?
I don't think so, because they don't we haven't talked issues in, I don't know, we've been together almost 19 years. In about 18 years, we haven't talked issues.
We're just fact checkers.
We try. We just have to, go in and sweep up after the day. That's what it feels like. We're the cleaning crew of America.
We're on overnight. We're the cleaning crew for the crap that happened during the day.
We're the cleaning crew of America. Cleaning it up so you can sweep it out the door, wash it down the drain.
Oh,
yeah, it was just so silly when I saw the headline. I'm like, okay. And it was breaking news all over my phone. I'm like, no. Somebody just choose one media group, one app on my phone, just one. That's all it warrants. That story does not warrant every media group's attention.
But No Labels was absolutely perfect for 2024. I mean, complete and total virtue signaling without ever taking a stand on an issue.
Right. No, they're the AI answer. We did all the AI answers to conservatives and Donald Trump and all that. They basically. Well, it's. What do you stand for? When it comes to the Second Amendment? Well, there is no one answer when it comes to the Second Amendment. It is just it's totally the AI answer that you would get every time.
Right.
If you don't stand, okay. And here's the thing. Going back, if you went back a few decades, it's like, all right, not everything had a political tone, but everything today does have a political tone. Now more than ever, you have to have a very clear agenda. You have to have because you could come in and say, listen, some of us are Democrats, some of us are Republicans, but here is what we want to accomplish. Here is our party's constitution and the things that we believe need to be fixed, and here's what we believe we need to do to fix them. Nothing.
No, they didn't do that.
Nothing.
And to me, it's the ultimate in pop culture populism, which
Right.
is, both parties. You can't deal with the Republicans and you can't deal with Democrats, so we're going to be the new party. Okay, where are you going to stand on the issue? Because I'm an issues person. That's all I care about.
Right.
All I care about is where you stand on the issues. Where you stand on the issues. Well, we're not willing to tell you yet because if we they actually said this.
Right.
We're not willing to tell you this because if we tell you what positions we might stand on, then it might turn some people off.
Right.
And so we're of the higher morality. We don't do anything.
Right.
We don't accomplish anything. We don't dare anything. We don't promote anything. But that makes us better because we're not that party or that party.
We don't tell you anything. There's no transparency.
Right. Exactly.
They lock the doors. We'll be out in a minute. Are you kidding me?
And the unidentified people who all got together. I mean, no transparency.
No, it's silly.
Well, that's the one thing. If just that alone, if you wish to separate yourself from the two other parties, sit there and come out and say everything we do will be transparent.
Right.
We're going to be the party of We're not just going to say it. We're going to do it. And they actually were promoting the fact that, well, we don't want to be transparent because that would get too many people angry at one side or wherever we were going. It's like they were promoting a political party, a nonprofit movement political party, on nothing.
Yeah. No, it's nothing. They had no stance. They had no positions on anything. None. And
Well, it depends who the we don't know what our position is because we're trying to find a candidate that we like. Well, how do you know if you like them if you don't know where you stand on the issues versus where they stand on the issues?
Right.
Well, because we're a political party that's not discussing the issues, we know it when we'll see it. What, are you out of your mind?
no, I mean, that's it. They really believed in the unicorn. It's, you know what it is? It's all the Bigfoot reality shows. And we know for a fact that they haven't found Bigfoot on that pre-recorded, pre-edited show on History or wherever it is. Why? Well, because if they had found Bigfoot, it would have come out in the news before the show ever aired.
You know that I posted that thing with the UFO looking at, Bigfoot riding the Loch Ness Monster?
Yeah.
And somebody actually responded to me and said, that's not the original picture. So, I swear to God. It was taken from this picture, which just showed the UFO. It's like,
Oh my
I swear to God, I go,
That's hilarious.
I
That's
didn't even
hilarious.
answer back.
But that's the No Labels party right there.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then for the No Labels Party spokesperson to say, no hero, a hero never emerged. That's a quote.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, are we adults? Are we children? What?
Yeah.
There are no heroes.
Virtue signaling.
By the way, when it comes to presidential candidates,
Yeah.
there are people that come in with ideas that they wish to promote.
Yeah.
You know, you might have some people look at how the federal government has gone after Trump and say this is so unfair. The way he's fighting it is heroic. You can say that.
Well, you can
But
also say, based on what he has lost and what he knew he was going
Yes.
to likely lose
Yes.
in terms of his businesses and everything else, you could say he gave up a lot of that. And he talked about it. He said the day I first announced that he was running in the 2016 cycle, he said the following day was one of the worst days because I realized what this was going to entail and what it would likely mean to the brand.
Yeah, he's probably the only president where the presidency has cost him a significant portion of his wealth.
Right.
I don't know of any other president
Right.
where that has happened like this.
Nope.
But to sit there and say we didn't find our hero.
Yeah.
Stop it, no labels.
Grow up.
Stop it.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I found the article that I was telling you about on Fox News. I'd seen it earlier, and then I couldn't find it on their website. And it's Alan, who always gives me different stories,
Right.
gave me this one, and I found the story. It was written by Paul Steinhauser. And it's just, I don't have to go past the first sentence. Are you ready for this?
All right.
And this is on No Labels. This is the headline. Centrist group No Labels scraps bid to launch third-party presidential ticket. No Labels, the influential centrist group. Do I have to go any further?
Nope, we're done.
With who? So
The influential.
the influential centrist group.
Well, okay, in that they influenced exactly no one to run on their ticket. Okay, yeah.
Not influential enough.
If you mean that they influenced everybody out of the field, okay, yeah. I mean that's kind of reverse psychology. But
well, that's okay. This is a week that we're dealing with that.
yeah.
Remember,
yeah, exactly.
We're dealing
Yeah,
with
we're
that.
looking at it the wrong way.
Right. Every story that we've done is just in bizarro world because the definitions of the words and what they're attempting to promote are two different things. And we talked about that with the National Organization of Women coming out against Riley Gaines and any other female athlete who does not want a man to compete against them in sports. And if you do not want a man to compete against you in sports, you're part of the white supremacist patriarchy.
Yeah.
And we went, well, you can't do that because patriarchy means basically a male-dominated society. And here it's males defining what a woman is and then males playing with females. So you've got it completely wrong. So no words mean anything to Democrats this week at all.
Uh-huh.
And here for this one, for the No Labels Party, the influential centrist party, it all depends what the definition of influential is.
Right.
And thank you for giving us the bizarro reverse definition of it.
Influencing people not to run for their party.
Right. Exactly. So
Since the beginning. Yeah.
all right, let's get into it's a Friday, so hey, it's all over the place Friday. We're trying to clear the desk to get out of here.
You know, I mean, the world is going to end on Monday, so we might as well. I mean, we have after this one really one more show, Sunday night, Monday morning, and then it's all over, folks. It's all going dark. Monday afternoon, it's all over. Seriously, it's over. I don't even, here's the thing, too, is that the conspiracy theories kind of rise in the media, to the top with the stories about them. But you can find, countless conspiracy theories if you just, search it on the internet, and I'm not even going to do that. I don't even want to get into that because then you get stuck in that part of the internet over and over again. It starts coming up in your feed. No, I'm not doing that. But it is over as of Monday afternoon.
So I wanted to play this one. Of course, this is on EVs, and we saw that Ford's cutting back, especially on the trucks. Mm-hmm. You and I always had that question saying, who's going to buy a truck?
Right.
Who's going to buy an electric truck? I mean, you have to use those things.
Well, pickups are one of the economic indicator. Pickup sales are an economic indicator on construction.
Yeah.
And they were, with the Lightning, they were promoting, well, look, you can use it as a generator. But they have generators. We already have those.
Somebody built for that. Yeah, built for that purpose.
I mean, you're if you want me to spend $100,000 on a generator, I can get a really good generator. And then the stories came out about the performance or lack thereof, and it was like, no. And then, of course, the cost of it all. Silly me with not leading with the cost of it all, but we don't. When we throw government money at it, nobody cares about that. Oh, look, we're going to, oh, yeah, we can't.
Listen to Karine Jean-Pierre here is asked the question, is it realistic to go from about 7 or 8% of sales to 50% of sales in 8 years if automakers themselves are cutting back on EV production? All right, here we go. All right. Listen to her answer. All right, here we go.
Is it realistic to go from about 7 or 8% of sales to 50% of sales in 8 years if the automakers themselves are cutting back on production?
We believe, and we've seen that U.S. manufacturing jobs have increased. Jobs have indeed increased. And when you see a boom like this, that means you need auto workers, right? It can't happen on its own. And so we believe this is working.
Do I have to go any further? No. I mean, I just like
it's like one of those robots right before they kind of run out of power. They just start firing off everything that's programmed in their
exactly.
computer. Yeah. It's that's exactly what you're hearing there. It all starts with demand, ultimately. And that's what we've hit. We've hit that threshold. And you and I have talked about it for years. Look, there are going to be people that are interested in the technology. And the technology is really cool. It's awesome. Now let's talk about using those items as cars and how efficient they are, how dependable they are, how practical it is in terms of having to charge, the amount of time, how much electricity you would need for a mandate when we get to that point, and all of these other things.
Total cost.
Yeah, and the total cost of it, which gets straight to the demand, because the geeks were always going to be on board. Oh, man, I'm going to get one. Well, that was about something different. And if you're commuting, every day, 20 minutes back and forth, and you don't take any road trips, well, then good luck. Otherwise, you're going to need a gas-powered car on the side to get you down the road when you need one. And it's always been about that kind of demand. When we talk about going from horse and buggy to cars, my gosh, everybody was interested. It was like, okay, how do I get one of these? Right. And then it was still, for a lot of people, cost prohibitive, of course. But then the mass production paid off, because it was like, okay, look at what this does for us and how, as an individual, here's the problem. The premise of how they've sold all this is what? The earth is going to die, right? It's over.
Right.
What was the premise for cars? It was an individual basis. You can get from A to B a lot faster. Look at this. And it changes everything. Transportation brought about a new freedom, with automobiles that people just didn't have. It wasn't a status symbol. It wasn't cool technology or just cool technology. It was about being able to move about more freely. There was a demand for it. It was about it being more efficient in terms of transportation or traveling. And that's what we've always done as a nation. Well, this is it. This is the approach of we do it or the earth ends. Well, what does that have to do with me and how I use a vehicle? Nothing. Because the fact of the matter is that they've been doing this under the guise of the earth ending for a long, long time, and they keep, moving the goalpost and over again. And the science doesn't hold up over and over again. And the science doesn't hold up for meeting the mandate. Imagine if we wanted. Imagine if the demand were there. We still wouldn't have. We wouldn't be able to ramp up. I mean, they would be so far behind in production because you wouldn't be able to power the grid. You wouldn't be able to mine all the materials necessary. You wouldn't be able to get all of this stuff done. Well, the fact of the matter is there isn't demand. There is only a government mandate, which is to outlaw the current behavior. It's always that way. And it ends with what? It ends with everything failing or doing away with the mandate.
Yeah. For her to talk about the boom, because the question is based on the premise of Ford cutting back production, all the layoffs that we've seen from the EV, the EV plants, and the knowledge that it takes a lot fewer workers to build an electric vehicle than it does a gasoline or a diesel vehicle.
Right.
And so she's just out there lying as big as she can. I have no idea, what statistics she's talking about.
Right.
But really, we really don't. She just says whatever lie because she knows she can get away with whatever lie that she tells. But, yeah, it's just you just shake your head. But there would be – think about this. What would the demand be if every person had to pay the full cost of an electric vehicle?
Oh, it would be nothing. I mean,
because if you took all the subsidies and if you look at it and it's when you look at it, the figure, what was it? Remember, was it Ford lost one of the automobile companies lost? I think it was Ford, 60-something thousand per vehicle.
Right.
Now that's for that year.
Right.
From what they've spent.
Right.
So they may not spend the same next year. So if you do it over a period of 5 years or something like that,
it may be pared down. Yeah.
Right. It may not be 60,000 in order to be fair.
Right.
But the fact is, those are costs that have to be recouped. What would it be? Would a electric vehicle cost? Because if you're talking about all the subsidies to the battery plants, all the subsidies along, the manufacturing chain to produce these things before you get to the subsidies that the automobile companies get from the federal government when it comes to when they actually sell it from the federal and some state governments, would it be 25, 30,000 more? What would the demand be for an electric vehicle if they had to pay the full freight of it, where it wasn't that government subsidies plus increasing the cost of gasoline and diesel vehicles to help also subsidize it?
Yeah, right.
If everyone had to work, if everybody had to survive on their own, would anybody be buying EVs? Would anybody be manufacturing them? And the answer would be maybe small boutique companies that would build them individually for millionaires and billionaires.
Well, that's
that
it.
want an electric vehicle, but you would not have manufacturing being done by any major automobile company in the world.
Well, and you look at the demand, or you look at the people that are buying them right now. It's not the average family that's buying them right now with government money.
No, they're not. They can't afford it.
It is the upper income. It's not the ultra rich, but it's people who are making higher income. So it's the upper middle class and then higher income that are buying it. And we heard it from, I forget which CEO that said our consumer is trading in a luxury vehicle. When they buy, the average consumer trading in a luxury vehicle when they buy an EV. Well, that tells you right there. Now, do the true cost, and then that demographic goes way up on the earnings scale.
Well, talk about what the Republicans should be promoting. We talked yesterday about what the Republicans should be promoting is the fact that the Democrats can't and won't solve the problems that we have today because they created the problem. And we talked about that yesterday. But when you look at EVs, you look at we've talked about all these topics this week. EVs, as you just mentioned, these are products that are subsidized for people of the upper income. You look at college loans. College loans is the exact same thing. We're doing the exact same thing there for college loans. Where and you think about everything. All these things when you talk about all the subsidies that go out, even for solar panels. Still, the average person isn't buying solar panels. So all these things are being subsidized by people of lower income. Oh, and the stadiums that we talked about, the stadiums yesterday, it's like, well, the stadiums are being subsidized by people who will never go to a game. And people that don't even watch the game. And so you're talking about half the people, and about half the people, probably 60% of people don't watch the NFL. On the Super Bowl, you may get a third of the country watching it. But still, we have such a diverse country that so many people are putting money in, and all these things are benefiting and subsidizing what the well-off want. And the Republican Party, since people are starting to recognize this, should promote it. Look at all these things. All these things that are happening, it's the poor and the middle class supporting the nice riches and gifts that the elite want.
The spending habits of the rich.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
And they should promote that. 866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper, or your carrier if you're leased, about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Hey, it's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, I did see I got to see if I can find the ad. It just popped into my mind as we were coming on the ad. You see the Trump ad against Biden?
I read about it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. I saw it and heard it, and just pounding all the Democrats, saying basically the Democrats are the party of violence, and all them screaming, doing violent rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow. It's like 90 seconds long. I mean, they include everybody in it. I'll see if I can find it. I saw it in a story, and it was tough to play on the air because commercials and everything cut into it.
Right. Yeah.
I think I forgot what newspaper actually had it. So we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, taxes and minimum wage in California. Business groups are trying to get a referendum now on taxes in California. That would severely limit the ability for local governments and the state government to raise taxes. So we'll get to the minutia of it. And the story of, you knew that it was going to hit yesterday, and the story of Newsom and his restaurants only paying $16. You sit there. Well, it's in a blind trust. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. He owns it.
Doesn't matter. He owns it, and the family should be smart enough to say, okay, in fact, not smart enough once the law changed. They should care enough.
That's what we said yesterday.
Yes.
He doesn't walk the walk. He doesn't care. And with COVID, he didn't believe the science, and he doesn't believe what he's trying to sell on $20 an hour. So, yeah. Pretty simple.
It's like, oh my! But that really went viral yesterday. Everybody was talking about that one. It was like, what in the world?
Yeah, and I love the 1807 with the amount they were paying bartenders.
Yes,
1807 an hour.
Yes, you did.
1806 isn't enough. Okay, we'll go 1808. Whoa!
Yeah,
we're not made of money.
Yeah, you noticed that. You noted that yesterday. You certainly did.
We'll do 1807. See how it goes.
My God.
Have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. How's everybody doing? We're wide awake here. It's middle of the night, and we're wide awake.
Wide awake. No sleepy time here.
No sleepy time.
Nope. No,
let me see.
We're ready.
I did see. Was it the New York Post that did the article that Tiger Woods now he may not be able to walk the whole Masters, or thinking about that, but apparently the story is sources are telling. I think it was the New York Post that Tiger Woods is not having sex so he can play better golf. I will let you know that later on today I'll be golfing for the first time in 5 months.
Yeah, and you're using the same approach.
I'm using the same approach.
Yeah.
Yes. Not voluntarily, but I'm using the same.
It just happens to work out.
Yeah, it
just happens to work out.
It's just working out.
It's working out that way.
It's working out that way, right.
Sometimes things just work out that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if it's going to help my game or not.
Yep.
But I just wanted to compare myself to Tiger Woods.
Has it helped your game yet? In all the years? That's what you have to measure, So.
Well, when the movie of my life comes out, 60-year-old virgin.
Oh, you just wait a few years. 70-year-old virgin.
Now that hurt. The virgin part didn't hurt. The age part hurt.
Like one of those sideshows. Step on up. Step on up. See him for yourself.
He's talking to himself. Yeah, he does that a lot.
He does that a lot. He mumbles. He's a mumbler. He comes from a long line of mumblers.
Now somebody's going to call me and say, "Is that really true?" Oh, yeah, let me go through my sexual history with you.
Is that really true? Yes, I'm really 68.
Golfing today and really looking forward to it.
All right.
Just because I'm getting ready for the Independent Bob Golf Tournament.
Okay.
In a couple of weeks.
All right. Yeah.
It's actually his brother's Tom tournament, but
yeah, all right.
I just call it. People, our listeners recognize Independent Bob. So it's going to be interesting to see, because there's a party the day before, and I'll be able to talk to Independent Bob. He's got to be just going crazy over everything.
Yeah, you haven't. He hasn't vented
about 2 months ago. 2 months ago,
okay.
He did.
All right.
And so he'll be roaring to go. But golf tomorrow, and then concert Saturday night. So.
And the concert is
the old guitarist from Genesis, Steve Hackett.
Okay.
At the Majestic Theater in downtown Dallas.
All right.
So,
yeah.
He's plays the good Genesis. I've had a few people say, "Oh yeah, I like that Genesis. You know, when they did, and it was, one of the pop stuff way after
Invisible Touch.
Yeah, something like
Susudio.
Susudio, yes, exactly.
Oh, wait, that was Phil Collins? That may have been
Phil
solo,
Collins,
maybe.
yeah.
I don't remember.
But the stuff when they went after Hackett left, which would have been Wind and Weathering. Wind and Weathering. But his first album, it's the weirdest thing is Steve Hackett's first album, Voyage of the Aqualite. You know who sang on it? Phil Collins.
Oh,
and to see the difference of Phil Collins singing with not a pop genesis, but a prog rock genesis. And then actually, and Steve Hackett's first album was like completely and totally, it's a great album, but it's completely eclectic. It's completely different than what 99% of the people know Phil Collins to do.
Right.
And that's one of my favorite things to go, you know who that singer is? No, it's Phil Collins. No, it's not. He doesn't sing that stuff. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
So, but no, Phil Collins.
It's weird to see early Genesis with Phil Collins on the drums and not singing.
I know, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
And there's some great. That's the thing about YouTube now when you don't have commercials on it.
Yeah.
Is the fact that they're remastering. All these bands are remastering a ton of stuff from the 60s and 70s. I'm not even a huge Pink Floyd fan. I'm not. I'm a prog rock fan, but to me they're just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just they never hit me.
Right.
But there was a concert from like 68. I didn't know who the band was, and it was Pink Floyd, and it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was and it was like remastered, from the early band, and I'm like, this is really, really good. And that's the thing you and I've always talked about. You can hear a recording of a band and not be into the band at all, and all of a sudden you see them live, and you're like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah.
that's why we've often said we really don't debate music because you can't.
No.
It's
what people, it's your taste. It's whatever you're into.
As I found out, and this is a couple of years ago, all the pop stuff that I grew up with but never bought the albums for. You listen to all that music, and a couple of years ago it started, I was like, I really like this song. I go, why do I like it? Oh, it brings me back to a point in time of my youth.
Yeah, okay. Right.
And that really didn't happen. My whole life, it was like I was always looking for new music, and all of a sudden that happened. It's like, well, this is a pop song. Come on. How can I like this? Is so sugary and so poppy.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but you were a kid, and it brings you back to that moment, which is something really cool in music that it can do that. And
it's interesting because I saw an article. I think it was, I don't know if it was it wasn't a local news media group, but it's a band that's based here in Dallas, Old 97s.
Oh, yeah.
And it just took me back to my early days in Dallas radio when I first moved here. And because they were just starting out about that time. And it was, it's crazy how it just took me back. And just reading up on the band and the whole thing. And I came across something I guess I knew and I forgot. Rhett Miller, the lead singer, they're an Americana country rock kind of band. I mean, they're Old 97s. I mean, I think they're great. And Rhett Miller, his grandfather, started the Dallas Texans NFL team, which became the last NFL team to go bankrupt back in the day. Someone I think told me that. And I guess I probably forgot it or just, maybe it wasn't relevant or whatever. But that was kind of a interesting side note as I was reading up on the band and what they're up to. Yeah, crazy.
The Dallas Texans, because most people would know the Dallas Texans as the Kansas City Chiefs now, because the Dallas Texans were in the first year of the AFL, but the Dallas Texans of the NFL one season in 1952.
That was it. It was Rhett Miller's grandfather.
They were 1-11.
Yeah. And that was the last time an NFL team ever went bankrupt. Crazy, huh?
Wow, that's a great. Yeah, that's really interesting because nobody's really near bankruptcy these days, are they?
No.
Because you buy the team,
right,
and it goes up $1 billion every 3 years.
Exactly. And this was early. 52. Yeah, it was the first NFL team in the South. Crazy.
Yeah, I'm reading about it right here. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
There it is. As a result, the Texans are officially recognized by the NFL as being the league's last team to date to permanently cease operations and not be included in the lineage of any current franchise.
Yeah, so it was weird that I came across this story on Old 97s, which took me back immediately. We're talking about how music takes you back.
Yeah.
And it took me back to my early Dallas radio days. And then, it was like, wow, what are they up to now and what's going on and what's the latest? And just kind of coming across that little tidbit of information. But it is interesting how music can connect in so many different ways.
You know who played for that team? Remember Art Donovan? You would see him, the guy, he'd be on every single documentary talking about the old NFL, and he was so animated. I had no idea. I just remember him. I haven't seen him in any, I'm assuming he's been dead for a while. But he died, let me see, born in 24, died in 2013. But he was on so many documentaries. This guy was, even when he was older, was just so incredibly animated about the NFL.
Right.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
But isn't that it's really interesting when you get older because music never did that to me until, when it did is when I was getting ready a couple of years ago for my 50th high school reunion. And I'm like, what was the music that was on? And some people were posting, this is the music from 73. And you're like, wow.
Yeah. Well, and
Steely Dan, Reelin' in the Years, that album.
Oh, yeah.
51 years old.
Yeah.
Elton John, Yellow Brick Road, that album, 51 years old.
Right.
Wow. Aerosmith, first album not first album, but I mean, I don't know if it's the first album, but the Dream On is 50 years old now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that. That's a half a century.
Right.
And the difference is, when you look back, could you imagine, you could say in 1990, saying, wow, a lot of the kids are listening to that 1940 stuff.
Right,
or 1980.
right.
That 1930 stuff is really popular. Or even
Right.
1970.
Well, no, I mean, I always do that. I always do that. Because I think about, like, old 97s when I was, to me, they've always been, because they're a Dallas band, so locally we kind of claim them. But they went big. They started in 92, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think to myself, my gosh, we're going back 32 years.
I know.
It's crazy.
Well, to think that, Nirvana, early 90s,
Yeah.
well, you go back 50 years.
Right.
And, you're still into the big band era. And still today, I mean, they talk about how, did you see the Gene Simmons interview where he said music's dead? He said because there are no record companies to really develop bands anymore.
Well,
and
yeah,
he
because
said,
there's no money in it. The money has kind of gone away.
Yep. And he said, he goes, look at all the great, and he started talking about all the great bands of the 60s, 70s. And, he said, then the 80s it started disappearing. In the 90s, you still had some, but he goes, really, it's completely and totally disappeared. You think about, if you ever seen the documentary on Kansas, the band Kansas, when they first came out, I mean, my God, you look at that, you would never think that group of individuals, because they look like, I don't know, they, as Don Kirshner said, they were, when they first came in, he was like, well, what in the hell is this? These people coming in, they're in a band,
right?
They look like they're coming off the farm, and they're doing this incredible, really classical music rock, is what they're doing.
Right.
But he stuck with them for the longest time, and people talk about Don Kirshner and the Monkees. He goes, you people can't do your own music.
Right.
You can't do it. But Kansas, he was completely different with and said, you got to get me a hit. He goes, but we never felt forced. You've seen the documentary, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
What a great documentary. And, and then finally they hit. He goes, but it took a while. They developed that band in order to get them to that point. He goes, and Gene Simmons was saying, that's just not happening today, that rock is really dead. He goes, and that's why so many young people are into the stuff that came from the 60s and especially the 70s classic rock.
Right.
That genre, you could say, Boston, Kansas, Styx, everything else.
Right.
Because nothing is like that today. And the remastering of so many of these, this music makes it sound perfectly modern.
Right.
I mean, it all sounds great.
Right.
And they talk about how kids today and you think about that, well, that's 50 years ago.
Right. Well,
and that just didn't happen
That's
in
it.
generations before us.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
it was viewed as hip.
And they were different instrumentalists than what you see today. I don't know if it's just a lack of development or lack of interest or whatever it is, but they're really good, the young, players of today, but it's different.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. There's a headline, California minimum wage mandate causing maximum damage. California businesses take on Gavin Newsom over tax hikes. There's now, because of AI, the stories are coming out. Now, this is going to lead us to the 4-day work week.
Yeah.
This is going to lead us there.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about in high school, so early 70s. By the time we get to 1999, nobody will be working a 5-day work week. It'll be 3 to 4 days because the technological boom that we're seeing with computers will mean all the jobs will go away.
Yeah. Right.
Didn't happen.
Nope.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi, good morning. We're here to a Friday, counting down the end of the world, Monday, when the eclipse happens. Oh, man.
I'm not going to bother mowing my lawn until I know for sure.
Well, if I keep reading more articles like this, then let's just end it all. You and I started talking. Maybe it was last week. Started talking about two op-ed pieces that were written. One by both Democrats. One, Roy Teixeira, and Roy has been talking about. He writes for the Liberal Patriot. I think that may even be his website. And he's moved away from where the Democratic Party is going, but he still supports all their candidates. But he thinks the way that, and the same thing, Douglas Schoen, and we talked about his column in thehill.com. Well, both of them put out articles in the last 10 days that were basically stating what they were communicating is in order for the Democrats to win, they need to become Republicans. And in some cases, to me, it was communicated that they've got to be MAGA. And I say that because I think it was Schoen who wrote that they've got to discuss building a barrier or a wall, and actually used a wall on the border. And I went, well, now you've gone beyond Republicans. You've gone to MAGA.
Yeah.
And so Roy Teixeira wrote and I've got no problem. I can deal with him because I think he's being as intellectually honest. He's not trying to lie. Now, what he thinks the Democratic, what they could do, what the party could do, I think is a little bit delusional, because as he's been writing, he goes, in the last couple of weeks, I've been revisiting my 3-point plan to fix the Democrats and their coalition. It was originally published in October of 2022. A brisk tour of the polling and the political data suggested that the Democrats are still in need of serious reform and that the 3-point plan is as relevant as ever. Here's a very short version of the plan. Democrats must move to the center on cultural issues. Democrats must promote an abundance agenda. You know what abundance agenda is? Creating a real economy with real jobs.
Oh, really?
Basically, he promoted, because we read parts of it on earlier this week or late last week, I forgot, and it was about producing more stuff cheaply, which means government has to get out of it. The abundance agenda is promoting, the Democrats need to promote capitalism and promote capitalism aggressively. And Democrats must embrace patriotism and liberal nationalism. And that's where, when I saw that, I went, must embrace patriotism and then actually use the word, even if you have liberal in front of it. Remember, you're a Christian nationalist if you believe, I know she backed off on it, but that's what she believed. Liberal, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it. I can't think of her name at the moment, but she said Christian nationalism is basically if you believe that rights came from the Creator. She got blasted for that. I mean, just eviscerated for that. But Democrats must embrace patriotism and liberal nationalism. And he goes through the whole patriotism problem that they have and goes through, I mean, polls that have been done for the longest time and showing how even since, 25 years ago, since the turn of the century, it keeps getting greater and greater. People don't believe that the Democratic Party is a patriotic party at all. And they said perhaps the most alarming in the 2022, you remember this poll, in the 2022 poll, Quinnipiac found that a majority of Democrats, 52%, said they would rather leave the country than stay and fight should the United States be invaded as Ukraine was by Russia. So the patriotism gap is alive, well, and persistent. Why is it? One key factor is that for a good chunk of the Democrats' progressive base, being patriotic is just uncool and hard to square with much of their current political outlook. And just goes through all the part of, racism, critical race theory, everything else. And he goes through everything about the Democrats are saying. Everything from, the critical race theory that we see today. He said the conventional wisdom is a problem. It's why progressive activists, 8% of the population as categorized by the More in Common group, who are deeply concerned with issues concerning equity, fairness, and America's direction today, are so unenthusiastic about their country. Just 34% of progressive activists say they're proud to be Americans, compared to 62% of Asians, 70% of blacks, 76% of Hispanics, the very groups whose interests these activists claim to represent. Similarly, the Insight survey, 66% of strong progressives said America is not the greatest country in the world, compared to just 28% who said that it is. But the multiracial working class, non-college voters, white and non-white, held exactly the reverse view, 69 to 23. They said America is the greatest nation in the world. And it's like the uncomfortable fact is that these sentiments and the view of America they represent are now heavily associated with Democrats by dint of the very significant weight progressive activists carry within the party and in Congress on the federal level, which far transcends their actual number. And we've said this before. I don't believe that the majority of Democrat voters, if you pull them aside and say, do you really believe that men should be competing against women? I believe the vast majority would say no, yet 99% of the Democrats in Congress say yes.
Yeah, that's, there's the disconnect, right? We talked about how Congress isn't doing anything about the national debt. Even the GOP, a few people are talking about it, but really nobody's talking about it because the rank and file aren't talking about it. We're not outraged about it, our audience and conservatives notwithstanding. The disconnect with Democrats on these issues, I think you're right. I agree. I think that the majority of Democratic rank and file voters would probably not support that, yet on Capitol Hill, they get away with that kind of vote.
Now, what I find interesting here, because you have to read between the lines here, he goes, but the problem goes deeper than simple unpopularity, though it is not insignificant. Lack of patriotism undercuts Democrats' ability to mobilize a coalition behind what they say they want, a robust and far-reaching program of economic renewal. One of the only effective ways, really the most effective way, to mobilize Americans behind big projects, which means spending more taxpayer dollars, is to appeal to patriotism, to Americans as part of a nation. Indeed, much of what America accomplished in the 20th century was under the banner of liberal nationalism.
Yeah.
Which is you spend taxpayer money to make America first. And the problem with that is they've run out of the money. Those big projects can't happen. And even if they didn't run out of the money, if there was still, because they can still do debt for another, 30, 40 years. But the problem keeps getting worse, and inflation will keep getting worse. But Democrats have tried to unite the country around the need to dismantle systemic racism and pro-equity, and they failed miserably. Democrats have tried uniting the country around the need to save the planet through a rapid green transition. That's failed. It's time for the Democrats to try something that really could unite the country, patriotism and liberal nationalism. Now, the thing that he's missing, being a lifelong Democrat, is those aren't the real problems. The real problems are, number one, the Democrats, you can't fake patriotism. When you don't believe, and he doesn't really hit this, if you don't believe in freedom of speech, if you don't believe in freedom of religion, if you don't believe in the Second Amendment, if you don't believe in having the Senate, if you don't believe in the Electoral College.
What do you believe in?
What do you believe in? If you don't believe in, what makes you an American? We've had this discussion before. Well, you said that these Democrats aren't American. Well, we've thrown that right at President Biden.
Right.
Especially how he's dealing with Israel and the American hostages out there. But what makes you an American is your belief in the Constitution. If you believe that all the major tenets of the Constitution ought to be gone, well, then I can say you're not really an American. Because what is being an American? It's that we unite behind that ultimate law.
Yep. It's the America Last policy approach by this administration and by the left.
And so the other thing is they can't change it because they're a party. The party is built, and if you've been a long-time listener to the show, you know we've said this. The party is built in identity politics. It's a major core tenet.
Right. And when you make that your core tenet, you move further and further away from the real interest of the American people.
Right. And we've talked about it, and the Democrats that, Tim Ryan, when he ran against Nancy Pelosi a few years ago, brought it up.
Yeah.
We've got to stop dividing people.
Yep.
Well, they can't stop dividing people. That's the only thing that they know how to do. Maybe 2 or 3 generations down the road they can evolve.
Right.
They can't evolve now and say, look, we were wrong on critical race theory. All whites aren't racist. They can't say that.
No, they can't reverse something they put into play and began decades ago. This is where it was always going to end up. And it's like Biden can't go back and say, hey, we need a secure border. Well, he can't say that. The Democrats can't go back and say this is wrong. There's no way you can. And on top of that, as a party, if they tried to do it, I think you touched on it yesterday, because we were talking about these two articles that came out, in recent days, both by Democrats, and you said, look, nobody would buy it, even if they did these things, which they're not going to do. Nobody would buy it. And the biggest reason no one would buy it is because conservatives would look at it and go, yeah, right. And those who were indoctrinated over the years and grew up under this, if you're a voter, if you're a rank and file voter, you're going to look at it and go, well, no, we can't do those things. We've been taught that those are the bad things.
I know.
A wall, no. We want to tear down walls. Remember? That was the whole thing. That was the pushback against Trump and the wall was, no, we need to break down the walls, tear down the walls and the barriers between us. Yeah, they're not going to do that as a party. That's not going to happen. And they've indoctrinated millions and millions and millions. And even if those people don't always connect on the issues, they keep voting that way.
Well, what makes people believe the Democratic Party is not a patriotic party is where they stand on the issues.
Yeah.
So you have to change where you stand on the issues, but those, again, are the core tenets of the Democratic Party.
Yep.
They live by identity politics. They judge people by groups and not individuals.
Right.
And look at the pushback. You had that author that was on The View, and the pushback. They don't want a colorblind America.
Right.
You saw the pushback to this guy. Oh, then you must be co-opted by the right, and you're a conservative, and he was shocked. He was like, my God, they're saying stuff that isn't true about me.
Right.
It's like, well, that's the pushback you get when you start talking about individualism and autonomy and judging people, as we all should, as an individual. You're going to get massive pushback from the rank and file of Democrats and the media that does not want that.
Nope.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And, we've been reading columns from Roy Teixeira and Douglas Schoen for a long time on the show here.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, and really since the Liberal Patriot was formed. And, Teixeira got involved, in that. We've been saying, okay, these seem to be two more old school Democrats that are saying that the Democratic Party has gone wrong. And where they're going is not going to win them future elections. It's what you and I said a while back. We said, look, eventually Democrats have to fail because they keep expanding the pie of victims and oppressors. Mm-hmm. And eventually you just separate people into one issue. In fact, we'll get to this here, the editorial from the Wall Street Journal. Welcome to Chicago, Democrats. The Democrats that are trying to kill the DNC being in Chicago.
Right.
The convention being in Chicago because they're pro-terrorists. And the pro-terrorists of the Democratic Party have such a loud voice, they believe they can kill the DNC in Chicago. Well, if you're pro-terrorist, I would ask, Roy Teixeira or Mr. Schoen that wrote both these columns about, that the Democrats should become that's what they're saying. The Democrats should become Republicans,
right,
and build a wall or a barrier. I mean, it's just Schoen put that in his column. You and I were dying laughing, going, "Well, he's saying that they've got to become Republican MAGAs."
Exactly.
And then to sit there and say, "Well, we need to promote the massive new spending by saying we're patriots to do that." Well, you see what the massive new spending. What is the massive new spending going for? Massive new spending is going to take care of the elite on the backs of the poor.
Yeah.
How do you frame that in a patriotic way?
Right. Help them buy EVs, help them buy solar panels, help them buy all these things.
College
loans. You know,
and then you go to the local level because sports stadiums have been in there saying, that the last, because of the Kansas City thing, and also the Camden Yards, money that they want to spend in Baltimore.
Right.
So it's become more of an issue. And then the Bills because of the new stadium, and then that story, the personal seat license. Well, wait a minute, we're already paying $850 million for the stadium, and now you expect the taxpayer to pay even more? These outrageous amounts? And so when you see that, that's when you look at it, and the danger of that is the populism of that. Why are the elite getting subsidized? Why are the elite
over and over again
by the Democratic Party? You can't spin that in a patriotic way.
Well, the Inflation Reduction Act was all about reducing cost for the elite.
Yeah.
We said it then.
But the Inflation Reduction Act was a lie. It did not.
No.
Its purpose was not, the purpose really wasn't to reduce inflation. Well, then why the hell did you name it that?
Right.
And what Teixeira and Schoen also forget is the gaslighting that's coming from this administration, the line in gaslighting, the absolute pathological line in gaslighting. If you're not going to put that into, that's the problem of that political movement, well, then you're not really addressing the true problems. You can't even see the true problems of the party that you belong to and you wish to resurrect.
Right.
Because, number one, the things that you're talking about are not going to happen in 2024. So,
I don't think it's going to happen in 2024. This is, again, once you build a machine this big, to say, hey, we need to deconstruct the machine and make it exactly like the opposite machine, that's never going to happen. Not in our lifetime.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. To give you an example, because I think it's interesting that it's been in the last 10 days where you had Douglas Schoen from in thehill.com, the Hill, put out his advice to Democrats on what they should do, and then Roy Teixeira here in the Liberal Patriot, which is they're communicating that you need to become Republican, and in some cases Republican MAGA. That's where the Democratic Party needs to go, and the continuing of the Great Society by promoting massive government spending. It looks like this is what they're communicating by saying we're patriots and this is all going for good causes.
Right.
Well, the fact is what the Democrats are spending the money on is not viewed by the poor or the middle class as something that's benefiting those in need, that it's benefiting those who are not in need. And you might say very likely, more likely to vote for Democrats. And so that would be hard to that they're not going to be able to overcome that, because it always comes down to the issues. And both, I think Douglas Schoen and Roy Teixeira are talking more in generalities, and you can't do that because the dirt's in the detail. The devil's in the details. And the details are, it's where you stand on the issues. How do you reverse, for example, critical race theory? It's impossible. The Democrats are behind the fact that all whites are racist, culturally racist to the point where you can't do anything about it. And therefore, you can't change white people in their racism, and therefore you have to form society, and laws must be based on what they say is a fact, which is completely and totally false.
Mm-hmm.
And so how are you going to change it? How are you going to change the radical transgender movement? 99.9% of the Democratic Party on the federal level is in favor of men playing women's sports. How do you change that? How do you reverse that one? 99.9% of the Democrats in Congress and the president are for the fact that if a male says he's a female, that makes him a biological female. Now, they're going to try to tell you that's not the case, but everybody knows it is, because if you're saying that gender is different than sex, then nobody would be pushing for men, biological men, playing against biological women.
Right.
End of story. How do you change that for the Democratic Party?
There's no way to do that.
You can't.
Well, all the things that are in play already, the liberal transgender movement, identity politics, the insistence that children learn about sexualized content at the age of 5, that children can make a decision to mutilate their body.
How do you reverse
You
that?
just walk away from that as a party? No.
And then you've got this. Wall Street Journal. Welcome to Chicago, Democrats, the editorial board.
Mm-hmm.
For a preview of the fun that awaits President Biden at the Democratic National Convention in August, get a load of this week's spectacle in the Windy City. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is defending an alderman who spoke at a rally in favor of canceling the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. The story began on March 22nd when a group called Behind Enemy Lines organized a protest near Chicago City Hall. The group said its purpose is to stop the U.S.-Israeli war machine and keep Genocide Joe out of Chicago. For the solemn moral occasion, the group organized a protest in which a veteran burned an American flag, and a Chicago alderman, Byron Lopez, spoke afterwards behind the charred remnants. Lopez said he wasn't there for the incineration and didn't think anything of the ash pile at his feet, but even progressive Chicagoans found the performance over the top. Members of the city council held an emergency meeting Monday to discuss removing Mr. Lopez from his leadership position as chair of the city's Housing and Real Estate Committee. That motion failed 29-16. Mayor Johnson has already thrown his lot in with the anti-Israel crowd, the pro-terrorism crowd, by the way, casting a tie-breaking vote on the city council resolution for a ceasefire in January. The mayor is pro-terrorist in Chicago.
Yeah, right.
But you might think he would go against the disrespect to Mr. Biden and the Democratic National Committee that selected the city as their showcase venue. Nope. Asked by reporters about the incident, Mr. Johnson tried to turn the fiasco into a First Amendment story, saying the alderman has a right to speak his political opinion, and criticism would be akin to the type of fascist forms of expression that have left too many of our countries in desperate peril. Taking his cue, Lopez told the city council on Monday, "I make no apology for standing for First Amendment rights." It would be great to see the party of cancel culture rediscovering free speech rights, but that's not what's happening here. In March, the Chicago House of Blues canceled a sold-out concert for a Jewish rapper after Palestinian activists called him a racist Zionist musician who was not welcome in Chicago. Where was Lopez and the mayor during this shutdown of free expression? The bigger problem with Mr. Johnson is with the governor, Governor Pritzker, and the National Democrats. Behind Enemy Lines leader Michael Borte said in a video that the group doesn't want just the same mass peaceful protests that are left in form but right in essence. He added, people are like, we want to confront some Zionists. We want to burn an Israeli flag. We want to take this protest to the next level. As for the DNC, the group says its aims to make bruises from Chicago police batons in 2024 back to school fall fashion. Wow. Democrats can't be eager to have Joe Biden's moment turn into a rerun of the violent clashes made at the Chicago Democratic Conventions back in 1968. Mr. Pritzker says he wouldn't have done what the alderman did, but it's his right to do it. What will he say when Mr. Biden is in town? And remember, though, that's the other problem they have. You have a faction, a very loud faction of the Democratic Party that is pro-terrorism. They are pro-Hamas.
And they will not be silenced.
Nope.
You're not going to shut them down.
Nope.
I've been saying for a while now that I'm very curious to see what's going to happen at the convention. Now, I'm very curious to see if the convention's going to happen.
Well, when you're a political party and you decide to defend groups like Antifa and jump aboard Black Lives Matter and the lies about police in 2020, and as cities burn, you're silent about it, or the media that supports you is saying mostly peaceful protest
Right.
as a neighborhood burns behind them.
Right.
Sorry, when you decided to get into bed with those types of organizations, then don't be surprised. You shouldn't be surprised when your party is now loudly, and you may say it's a minority, doesn't matter, it's your party, is loudly promoting the pro-terrorist narrative of Hamas.
You handed your keys over to the radicals.
Yep.
That's what you did. And that's where you are as a party. There's no reversing that. There isn't.
And, Mr. Teixeira in his column here, and then also Douglas Schoen and Hill.com, they don't address this kind of stuff. Well, if you're not addressing this, you're not addressing the huge elephant of a problem that the Democrats have in their living room.
Right. What it will be, if anything, it will be rank and file voters who have voted Democrat all their life voting differently. The party won't be changing. And we'll see where that goes. They're still performing well in the polls and in elections. So I don't know when it's going to end. At some point, they have to hit a wall. This is as extreme as it gets.
Yep.
Or is it?
No, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Where,
or is it?
Because if you would have said 5 years ago, hey, they'll be doing this, and I would have said, you are smoking crack. You need a timeout.
Did one Democrat on the national level or at any level come out yesterday and say that the National Organization of Women has gone completely bonkers?
No, I didn't.
I
didn't see it.
Is completely nuts for calling the victims, the women athletes that have been victims of the insanity of the radical transgender movement, and basically calling them women who wish to compete with women and don't want men defining what a woman is,
right,
and don't want to be competing or in a locker room with men, that the National Organization of Women calls them white supremacists, the white supremacist patriarchy, the women? No, that's the kind of radicalism that the Democratic Party has become. And every Democrat voter listening to us right now knows that. And everyone knows it's a problem. If you look at what Teixeira said or what Schoen said, I mean, they're going in the direction of what we have said the problem is. They're not fully there yet, but they're heading in the direction of what we've stated for well over 2 decades.
Oh, yeah.
As to where they are going.
Yeah.
Wow, you and I are almost, 19 years this year?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was no doubt that it was always going to get to this point. And they're not done.
No.
They're not done.
No, they're going more radical.
Right now, the radicals are going after their own party. Shut it down. We don't want you in Chicago. Well, okay. Do the radicals only live in Chicago? Well, no. So let's just say, which they're not going to do, they'll choose a last minute, different city last minute, which, again, it's not going to happen. But where would that be? where are they going to go? Where the radicals wouldn't follow. The radicals are everywhere. They control your party. Get used to it. You're the oppressor. We told you.
Yep.
We warned you about it.
And you're seeing it now. Now, look how they're going after Biden now on this.
Yep.
Biden isn't pro-terrorist enough.
Nope.
He's still pro-terrorist. He's just not pro-terrorist. You've got to be fully pro-terrorist.
Right. Well, they're not going to be happy until he bombs Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point.
So you're not going to shut them down. They're everywhere. I don't know where you go.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, the Roy Teixeira column is in realclearpolitics.com.
Okay.
Just so you know, the first comment I came to after his column, the left made their own bet on this one by carving us up into groups pitted against one another, the better to set the agenda, isolate and control the prevailing white power structure, which meant denying and rejecting any old cohesive forms like patriotism. The left lost their identity. They isolated themselves. Fools. Their tunnel vision is way less alluring than they, in that God-forsaken tunnel, think. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see.
Well, it's kind of what we've been saying, and that is, you want to create more victims and more oppressors. Well, then you're going to divide. And how do you bring people together? Well, they're still bringing people together as for right now. We'll see what happens in November.
Right. But we've often said a political party cannot succeed long-term on that.
November, really, I've been saying, look, we're at a crossroads, but November 5th is going to be a telling day.
Yeah, it is.
Because if it's a clear margin win for Trump, then we may be reaching that threshold with Democrats and their rank and file. That's a big if. If it's not, then they're going to keep doing what they're doing. And it's not, I don't think it's ever going to change for the party anyway. But the problem will be how many people are voting for the party. That's always the question. And we'll see what happens November 5th. But it is going to be telling on many fronts as to what you can get away with and what you can't. We've never been in this place before. And you might be able to say that on certain levels every election year, but we are at a crossroads. I firmly believe that. And we'll see what happens in November.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi. Thanks for being here. As we move into the 3-day eclipse weekend.
I'm having my tinfoil hat dry cleaned, and I'm hoping to get it back today.
We can call this sort of like a holiday.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the AAA report, but as you were looking at what, Airbnbs in Texas?
Yeah. So get this. This is from our local Fox TV affiliate, KDFW, Fox 4. They put on their website a story about a company called AirDNA, which is a company that studies short-term rentals, shared the occupancy numbers for Airbnb and VRBO and the largest 25 cities in the path of the eclipse. Now, they're focused on, here in North Texas, and so only Fort Worth, Texas, is below the 80% occupancy rate, and several cities like Dallas, 95.3%, Cleveland, 97.5%, Buffalo, 98.2% are nearly completely booked. There are some cities that are reporting in short-term rentals, VRBO, Airbnb, 100% booked. Yeah, so you're looking, at a ton of people that are all just looking to be in that zone of totality. This doesn't even account for the people that live, let's just say, within driving distance. Okay, you're not going to spend the night. I don't know, maybe you're calling sick and call in with a sunburn. Try that one. That would be ironic. And so you decide you're going to take the day off and you're going to drive into the zone of totality. Maybe you live a few hours out, within a few hours, whatever. And you're going to just go to a park, So I don't know that they can actually predict. You can look at this data, the bookings. You got to add on to this, by the way. This is short-term rentals only. And you got to add on hotels, and everything else. So now you look at what they expect. I don't know if they know what to expect. It could be crazy. It could be just, really, really busy. Or maybe it turns out not to be as bad as they think. But if you look at that, basically the zone of totality, that's the whole idea. Hey, if I'm close enough, I want to get there. Most people can't do that or won't do that, don't have that kind of interest. Man, people are spending a lot of money for 4 minutes.
I will say this, signs are up all over. I live in a peninsula of a lake, and they used to have the fireworks there. They moved the fireworks because the roads people were all over. When it got to be a week before 4th of July, it looked like, I'm not kidding, it looked like a prison because they had so many fences up to keep people from parking in certain areas, so they ended up moving it. But the signs are up all over the place. Do not stop on highway on April 8th during the eclipse.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I get out of here, and I have a 27-mile drive home, but it's on the tollway, so you go 700 miles an hour on the tollway, so you're home in a couple of minutes.
Don't exaggerate. It's only 650 miles an hour.
Okay. And to any police officers listening to the show, you don't have to be waiting at the entrance of 635 in the tollway for me to go home later on.
Yeah. Move.
Man, that guy's
Get out of the way.
That guy's got a turbocharger in that vehicle. Look at that thing go.
You know how fast you were going? Not fast enough. I'm sitting still now, officer.
But I'm just wondering what traffic's going to be like at 5 in the morning on that morning. I mean, are people?
Well,
what are?
I don't.
How are they going to react to this thing?
I don't know, because here's the thing too. You look at I-35, I-30. You look at these major interstates that are all. You mentioned 90 up in the Buffalo area. You look at all these major thoroughways. Well, in the major areas, the major metro areas, they're pretty busy on a Monday afternoon. Even at, in the middle of the afternoon, they're still pretty busy anyway. Well, how many people are going to be on the road on that, thinking, okay, I'll just, get onto that interstate again, drive in from outside the zone just so you can see it. And they'll be on the interstate when it happens. Or how many people haven't been paying attention going, oh, is that now? Why are things so dark? What? Huh? I mean, It could be chaotic. Hopefully it won't be. But I don't think I don't think you can fully predict something like this. I don't think you can. Based on the bookings of these short-term rentals, you can say, okay, well, these individuals are, they're making plans to be in the area. But really the congestion is going to be the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The highway congestion is going to be the problem.
Yeah, I don't plan on leaving. When I get home, I'm not leaving the house until I go back to work.
Well,
on Monday night.
I have a couple of family members, and their bosses are discussing whether it's a work from home day. Because if it happens here locally, it's going to happen roughly around 1:40 and then last until 1:43, 1:44. Well, if there's congestion, who knows, right? So then people get off work and then they can't get home. I think employers are mostly worried about people getting there in the morning. But by 8 a.m., Monday morning, I don't know.
How crowded is it going to be? We don't know.
It could be.
Nobody knows.
I mean, I would think that nobody's just going to. You should not ever, unless it's an emergency and your car's disabled, pull over on the side of the road. And you shouldn't do it for this purpose. Go to a park. Find a park somewhere where you can safely get out if you're going to do this and get off the road. But there's no telling because even the congestion leading to those parks or those areas.
Wow.
Just trying to get from A to B.
I just thought my house faces the southwest at 1:40. It'll be, I'll walk out my back door onto the pool deck, and it will be just to my left and up in the air.
Yeah.
It'll be, when I walk out, I'll be able to see it.
Yeah, same with me.
I should sell spots on my pool deck for like $100 a piece.
I was thinking, I said it the other day, can I sell each square foot of my front lawn for standing room only?
Yeah. and if I do that, will the IRS know?
Cash only.
With the new 80,000 agents.
Cash only.
Are they?
You're going to have a velvet rope and a couple of bodyguards standing there to let people in? Yeah, probably not. But I do wonder about neighborhoods, right?
Mm-hmm.
The parks will be crowded. I mean, potentially. I have no idea. Here's what happens. I live in a school zone. So I'm 5 houses down from the elementary where my 3 oldest, actually, 3 youngest, went to elementary school, and we've lived there for years, right? During the first week of school, when school comes back, parents are in this, and it's sometimes kids that are new to that school, new to the area, whatever. There's not enough room for parents to, park and then walk their child to class the first couple of days. And kids are nervous, so parents want to do that, which is no problem. But my street, which isn't the street that the school is on, it's a side street. It's a residential street. It fills up with cars. I know to expect it during the first week of school every year. My question would be, man, what's it going to look like? I live not far from 2 major thoroughways, the intersection of 2 major thoroughways, within 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I have no idea, And you want to say, well, plan accordingly. I don't know what to plan for. It could be a bunch of nothing. It could be, okay, well, it didn't, But based on just these short-term rental numbers, it's going to be crowded, which means people are going to want to get into town and out of town. And that means crowded roadways. I don't think there's any way around it. I really don't. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's much that because it's so unexpected, you just don't know what to do. I live probably the tollway 360 is the other tollway is that goes all the way down to Midlothian. It's probably about a mile west of me, and then 67, which heads all the way down to 35, and then down to Waco and Austin and all that. I mean, that's a direct route up here. So I mean, I'm just wondering.
As is 35,
right,
yeah.
and the 360 sort of just a couple of miles from connecting with 67, and I'm wondering, are all those highways going to be jammed, going both ways? I don't know. It's like with this is the one thing that I don't know. That's Airbnbs. Are anything on the hotels yet? I know.
I haven't seen hotel data.
The one thing I saw was in Western New York, because there was a big article that people that were coming from all over the country, all over the world, and they had group rates at a hotel, and the hotel would just cancel all of them, like in the last week or two, and they've been scrambling to, find out what they can do, and so they've had I think the one group was able to get hotel rooms, but at a much higher price than originally was booked, because there were tours that booked this a year ago, even longer.
Oh, yeah.
And my head's so into the other stuff that we talk about. I was like, it's like a month ago. Huh? Oh, it's going to hit here? Oh, I didn't know.
Well,
it's completely clueless.
For me, it's like, okay, I understand why people are fascinated with it. I'm not going to make plans around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I did. Get home as fast as I can.
Well, now
do not leave the house till I go back to work.
Right.
Now I may take the side residential roads.
Right. Yeah.
To see if it's crowded on the major roads. I may be a little bit inquisitive, but not during it, because what's it, 1:40 our time?
Yeah.
Is 1:40?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that means I get up, do some lawn work, call my dad. By the time I'm done talking with my dad, go, okay, got to go. And then it's going to be starting. You're going to see a difference in the light, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Early on,
right.
Once it starts, once the moon starts crossing the path, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing, I mean, the totality will last 3.5 to 4 minutes, but we'll probably notice a significant difference in the light for what, an hour before and an hour after?
I don't know if it's that long. I think it'd be a
half
matter
hour
of
each way.
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm just going to go out and sit in the back deck, grab some coffee, and do show prep.
Yeah.
It'll be Monday. It's a work day.
Well,
have my glasses.
And then there is the question about the cloud cover in states like Texas.
Oh, I know. Oh.
Because we are going to get rain later in the day. I don't know they're still kind of back and forth on what the cloud cover will be, around the time of the eclipse. But it may not be anything. You may not be able to see anything except clouds and, the darkness, all of that. So I guess we'll see.
Just be a cloudy, dark day.
I know.
That'll be a bummer. It's like
right. I could have gone to Seattle for this.
Well, not as big of a bummer from people that came all over the world to see it. It's cloudy.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. If you're spending all that money and time and been planning for this, and then it doesn't happen, I got my glasses. Oh, well.
I like the people that, rented private planes to go up above the clouds to look at it.
They're all shouting, but Mama, that's where the fun is.
What's going to happen at the major airports? Is DFW going to shut down when it happens for that period of time?
I haven't seen anything on that.
Neither have I.
No,
I just wondered.
no.
I don't know why they
fly
would.
At night, so I don't. Except for, we're just going to give all of our pilots 4 minutes to look up, and then we'll be on our way. Hey, guys, could you keep your eyes forward, just on the instruments?
And all the passengers back there in coach, what you're seeing is the end of the world here at the moment.
Sure, Captain speaking. We plan to land on the moon later, maybe. We'll get you there on time.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Roadside inspections all begin with the driver interview, during which the officer will gather basic information from the driver and prepare the driver for the inspection. The officer will also be evaluating the driver, determining if the driver can speak English, is under the influence of anything, has an illness, or is fatigued. The officer will ask the driver for required documents, including vehicle and driver credentials, the driver's log, and shipment paperwork. The officer may also conduct a vehicle inspection. Before beginning the inspection, the officer will take steps to make sure the inspection can be done safely. These include chalking the wheels, wearing personal protective equipment, and explaining what will be required of the driver. The driver needs to pay close attention to these instructions so that the vehicle inspection can be conducted in a manner that is safe for the inspection official. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, really interesting piece written by the woman who was the former senior editor of the Human Rights Watch. Talks about how, just like everything, you see the propaganda that we get in the cooperation with the media, for example, with the Democrats and everything else, and not reporting things. She goes, the exact same thing is going on with all these human rights organizations around the world to demonize Israel. She's no longer with them. And she just said, you can fight this because you can fight everything with facts. But the fact is the propaganda out there that has no sympathy for what Israel went through and is taking the Hamas side on it. As we have said, for example, you hear, well, the Palestinians, there are no Palestinians.
Right.
They may exist as people. There is no control of the Palestinians over the Palestinian people. It's Hamas.
Hamas does that.
Yeah, we all know that.
Yep.
And so the two, for example, you hear, well, we need the two-state solution. They don't want the two-state solution. It's ridiculous that we as a country is talking about something that neither side wants. And we need to, the solution and negotiation should be something that neither side wants.
Right. And all the propaganda is coming from Hamas. The left is just echoing the information Hamas is sending over.
So we'll get to that coming up here following the bottom of the hour. Plus, the business investor and baseball owner who says AI could give us a 4-day work week.
All right.
You know, you become a little cynical to these stories after you've been hearing it since the 60s.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to be at a 3-day work week.
Yeah.
A quarter of a century ago.
And video killed the radio star. Where are those MTV VJs now? Oh, they're all in radio. Never mind.
That's a great point. They are.
They're all in radio. Yeah. How'd that work out for you? Yeah.
And where's MTV?
Yeah. Where's MTV? Yeah.
Bringing on the chaos. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. I thought this was really interesting. Again, I was just going through Real Clear Politics and found a bunch of different articles, and I went, oh, okay, it's a Friday. Why not?
Why not?
And this was an article, Confronting the Anti-Israel Narrative Industrial Complex. The growing demonization of Israel is not unstoppable. Lawrence Hess wrote it, and but he really refers to Danielle Hess, who he says is no relative of his, said Israel has become so demonized in human rights organizations, says Danielle Hess, former senior editor at Human Rights Watch, that there's no space to see Israelis as victims or to absorb nuance or voices that challenge their ideology. In a conceptual universe where Israel is an occupier, colonizer, apartheid state, it is the aggressor regardless of the brutal human rights abuses it suffers. Haas, no relation to me, edited the Human Rights Annual Review around the world from 2010 to 2023. In a blistering piece for the journal Sapir, she writes that in human rights organizations now, Israel has become their watchword of outrage, the focus of disproportionate attention, and the note to sound for signaling fealty to a human rights movement that is increasingly hijacked by politics and dominated by groupthink. That's why, she writes, these organizations have been so muted, in their response to Hamas's brutality of October 7th, so disinterested in the tunnels it has built beneath children's beds, so skeptical of the proven ties between Hamas and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, so eager to parrot false claims of Israeli brutality in response to October 7th, and so reluctant to correct the record later on. From their perch as self-appointed human rights arbiters, these groups play a huge role in shaping public views of the Jewish state. Their reports, tweets, and other utterances are echoed at the United Nations and other global bodies in leading capitals, through media, on campuses, and in Hollywood, all of it contributing to what one might call a narrative industrial complex that sets and reinforces a narrative about Israel that's driven by ideology, biased in its conclusions, and disproportionate in its focus. And then she writes, the silver lining in all of this, because the narrative is rooted less in facts than ideology, facts can chip away at that narrative, forcing its adherents to think anew. Polling proves it, and I've witnessed it up close. You know, we've talked about it, though, but that's liberalism. We talk about liberalism. It's not based on facts. You know, you look at everything from critical race theory to the insanity of the transgender movement, the radical transgender movement, to the pushing of the left that we could run this grid on solar and wind, from the insanity of the EVs that are being produced here across the board. The things that once sunlight shines on these things, they die. Yep. And they start to die, and people start looking and going, okay, we've been BS'd all along here. It said, when it comes to Israel, much of the world is chained to a wall, seeing only shadows, the shadows of a narrative about Israel as an apartheid state, a uniquely prominent human rights abuser now committing genocide in Gaza. The problem does not begin and end with human rights organizations, nor do these organizations drive skewed views of Israel more than any other part of the narrative industrial complex. The UN and its Human Rights Council focus inordinate attention on Israel while largely ignoring truly horrific human rights abuse elsewhere. Western newspapers often cover the Arab-Israeli conflict with a pronounced bias against Israel. Western leaders read that coverage and seek limits on Israel's response to terror, and leftist professors nourish anti-Israeli bias on the campuses of all too many universities. It's no wonder that support for Israel is dropping among college students and other young adults. All is not lost, though. Ignorance about Israel, still the region's only democracy, by the way, provides opportunity. In a recent survey of 250 college students around the country, more than 85% of them supported the Palestinian chant, from the river to the sea. Many, however, had no idea what they were talking about. They couldn't identify that river or that sea, and most did not know the basic facts about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Everything was based on ignorance. That's liberalism.
Well, yeah. I mean, the facts, they don't care about the facts. And history, they don't care about history.
But after learning a handful of basic facts about the Middle East, The University of California at Berkeley professor who commissioned the survey wrote in December that 67.8% of the students went from supporting from the river to the sea to rejecting the mantra.
Well, yeah, the facts tend to destroy narratives. But we talked about it, and it's been the case for a while, and I think it applies here too. But the extremists just need something else to put on their sign, their protest sign. They're going to start chanting whatever the next thing is. And many of them are ignorant of the facts. You're pro-Hamas if you're shouting this stuff. Mm-hmm. There's no way around it. Your anti-Semitism is on full display. And if your ignorance is leading there, then maybe you need to check yourself. Maybe you need to look into the facts. But I can't lead you there. I can't. The willfully ignorant are going to do what they do. And the fact of the matter is that, and I think somebody even did a similar segment on it somewhere, but basically they're just looking for the next reason to be angry. Whatever the next cause is, they're going to jump on it. They don't care about the truth.
Well, that's perfect for even though it came out a long, long time ago in the early 90s, PCU.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Yeah, the cause heads.
Right.
If you've seen the movie.
Well, the protest signs are now dry erase boards. You know?
But as she writes here, I just want to finish a couple more sentences because it makes the exact same points that we've made. She said, I experienced something similar. This is the former head of the Human Rights Council who quit and just said the human rights organizations are just, they're just putting out propaganda. They're really no longer about human rights anymore.
Right.
She goes, I experienced something similar discussing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I've evoked blank stares when noting that the Palestinian leaders have rejected multiple offers of statehood and that Palestinians overwhelmingly oppose a two-state solution and support Hamas's brutality of October 7th, that the Palestinian Authority continues to pay pensions to the families of terrorists who kill Jews, and that Israel arguably does more than any other nation to limit civilian casualties in wartime. Nor do most people know that the Palestinian leaders incite Jew-hating and Israel rejectionism at mosques, through schools, and on social media, lots of it documented by the Middle East Media Research Institute and other watchdog groups. So here's an idea for those who want to level the playing field of discussion about the Jewish state, relay facts, offer history, and suggest reliable sources from outside the narrative industrial complex, and change the world one blank stare at a time. Really interesting article there. This is when the president's out there or Blinken and they're talking about we support a two-state solution. I mean, the ignorance that they believe that the American public has must be extremely great. We've often said that Democrats believe that the people that vote for them are complete idiots.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't do this. Because we've talked about it. It's clear. The polls have shown the Palestinians don't want a two-state solution. And there's Biden and Blinken up there, and we need to get a two-state solution. They don't want it. They want Israel gone.
Right. Hamas doesn't. Right. They don't. But you know what? Hamas loves that. Why? Because it gives Hamas more cover. They can sit and do what they want. Now, with the phone call yesterday.
No, yeah.
Okay, take more hostages, do whatever you're going to do. Because Israel has really no more allies. Effectively, they have none. The extremists, the radicals, including this president, are in charge. Never mind all the innocents that this president's administration is responsible for killing. They haven't answered for those. But they were going to take advantage of
you talking about
the innocents that were killed by the Israelis. Yes.
Yeah.
And they were going to take full advantage of the innocents killed by the Israelis to pressure them. Full ceasefire immediately. And, of course, Israel came out later in the day. Okay, we're going to also open up a port for humanitarian effort and all of that. The fact of the matter is Israel came forward when that happened, and they realized what had happened. We heard from them. In Afghanistan, did we hear from this administration?
Nope.
No, we heard it. We got the truth from the media when they killed innocents. And you still haven't heard this president answer for it.
But that's why we say, last week when the president, again, when they started changing and talking about the ceasefire, we said, there they go.
Yeah.
Abandoning American hostages.
Yep.
And he did it again yesterday. They don't give a damn about American citizens.
No.
I don't know when Democrats, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what Democrats care about because they don't talk. The voters really don't talk about what they see as the problems out there. You and I have discussed this for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody I know on social media that were our Democrats have gone quiet over the last few years.
Yeah.
Every acquaintance I know has gone quiet. They don't discuss anything anymore.
Right.
And it's to me, that's what the polling has missed. What does a Democratic voter, think about this? We know that more Democrats believe the propaganda of Hamas, and we know it's more Democrats that are the radicals in taking the pro-Hamas position, including the President of the United States and his administration.
Yep.
The administration, and we can say it with full confidence, the administration has proven in the last 2 weeks, and especially yesterday, they are pro-terrorist, they are pro-Hamas, because there is no gray area here. There's none.
Nope. Radicals, and on the other side, everybody else.
Yep. And the radicals include the President of the United States.
Yep. And there's no way around that, and it's, yesterday is more proof.
Yeah, Afghanistan was proof.
Yep.
This is proof.
Yep.
The border is proof.
Every day.
Every day. We don't care. We don't care if terrorists come in. We don't care.
America last.
Yep.
We don't care.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I would assume when's Congress getting back? Because I would expect a loud response from the Republicans today and some Democrats to the president, what he said yesterday.
Yeah, I don't
imagine Netanyahu talking sorry to this idiot who can't even complete a sentence. And sorry, don't say I'm insensitive because of his cognitive abilities. The entire family and the White House say, and all Democrats say, he is fine and there's nothing wrong with him whatsoever.
Yeah. I can't imagine. And you don't, look, if you're Netanyahu, you don't know what to believe from Biden, just like us. You have no idea. And then his threats, his arrogance, Biden's, over and over again.
Well, Netanyahu knows he has Congress.
That's about what he has.
That's what he has. And the other thing is he has the truth behind him. But, the idiocy, Eric, I just shake my head when, the administration's out there going, well, and we believe a two-state solution. Well, you're a freaking lunatic. You're delusional. You're smoking something.
Yeah.
Because nobody who knows anything about it believes that nobody wants the two-state solution.
No.
Stop talking about it as if we've got the solution here, and if the Israelis would only cooperate with us.
Right.
You look like an idiot stating that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.